President Gili and his Somali counterpart Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud closed the sixth edition of the Ideas Forum organized by Heritage Institute. Brussels opening of the trial of the Brussels terrorist attack. Welcome to our newsroom under the chairmanship of His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, President of the Republic, Head of Government. Took place this Tuesday, 6 December 2022. The 18th session of the Council of Ministers took place. The following texts were examined and approved. Listen to the spokesman of the government, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, sous la présidence du chef de l'État, son Excellence M. Ismail Omar Guelleh, s'est tenue la 18e séance du Conseil des ministres en ce mardi 6 décembre 2022.
Ministry of Budget. First question. Draft Finance Law on the initial state budget for fiscal year 2023. The state budget for fiscal year 2023 is presented in balance in revenue and expenditure at 143.8 billion Djiboutian francs, an increase of more than 4 billion Djiboutian francs, equivalent to a growth rate of 2.9% compared to the ratifying budget for the fiscal year 2022. The preparation of the state budget for the 2023 fiscal year takes place in a difficult national and international context marked by successive crises as well as the disruptions caused by the Russian-Ukraine conflict. This budget provides an increase in domestic resources, particularly tax and non-tax revenues. Total expenditure is slightly lower than in the LFR 2022. Domestically financed investment spending is down thanks to tighter control of budget spending. In 2023, the government intends to maintain the efforts undertaken to strengthen the dynamism of economic activity and ensure macroeconomic stability through the pursuit of structural and budgetary reforms that imply greater efficiency in the execution of public expenditure. In light of this context, the 2023 budget incorporates a number of government reforms based on the following axes: tax reform in order to optimize domestic revenues by broadening the tax base, modernizing the administration and digitization procedures through the upcoming implementation of an integrated tax managing system, strengthening tax compliance and tax collection, developing an MTPF to improve budgetary discipline and controlling expenditures in order to ensure the sustainability of public finances. These reforms also aim to strengthen public financial control institutions, governance of public institutions with the objective of improving performance and accountability in public financial management, strengthening audit functions, improving coordination between control institutions, and improving the governance of public entities. Reforms will also focus on improving debt management with the upcoming adoption of the law of public debt and the decree on the guarantee fund, and the establishment of a medium-term debt strategy. The government will also pursue the strategy based on the Djibouti Vision 2035, which aims to transform the country into a middle-income economy and a logistics and trade hub for East Africa. The 2023 budget also aims to strengthen the social sectors and revive the economy. Finally, the LFI 2023 provides for social measures aimed at boosting household purchasing power, improving tax collection, and supporting small businesses in order to formalize their administrative procedures. Second question, draft order allocating a plot of land to the Ministry of Agriculture, Water, Fisheries, Livestock, and Fisheries Resources. The purpose of the draft order is to allocate a parcel of land located at Saline West next to the fishery and with an area 2905 meters. The said parcel is intended for the implementation of a project for the construction of a laboratory of Forlana. Presidency of the Republic. Third question, draft law on the approval of the financial accounts of the People's Palace for the year 2021. The 2021 financial accounts of the People's Palace are stopped in income at 368,637,000,000 Djiboutian francs and expenses at 367,251,117 Djiboutian francs, with a profit of 1,385,887 Djiboutian francs. In 2021, the People's Palace obtained a subsidy of 273 billion Djiboutian francs. The subsidy has increased compared to the one of the fiscal year 2022, which amounted to 225 billion francs. Fourth question, draft order approving the provisional budget for the People's Palace for the fiscal year 2023. The provisional budget 2023 of the People's Palace is presented in balance in income and expenses at 355 billion Djiboutian francs. The own receipts are constituted essentially by the income of rent of rooms and spaces. This 2023 budget intended for the functioning of the institution will allow to ensure the upkeep and the maintenance of the technical infrastructure for an optimal exploitation of the People's Palace. Fifth question, draft order approving the 2023 budget estimate for the National Agency for State Information Systems, which in short is called as ANSI. The provisional budget of the National Agency for State Information Systems for the year 2023 is presented in balance in revenue and expenditure at 317 billion Djiboutian francs. ANSI will invest 130 million in four virtual areas, namely the extension of the integrated state network through the acquisition of equipment not initially planned, the extension of the data center designed to host the administration's digital services, national interoperability platforms, the cloud of the tax authorities, and etc. For customs, the reinforcement of cybersecurity by the acquisition of an internal firewall solution to protect against threats and vulnerabilities coming from the different governmental sites, the renewal of the data center equipment license and technical support. This draft budget also provides for the continuation of priority actions, namely the strengthening of the network and system of infrastructure of the state, in particular the prefecture, the rationalization of the computer systems of the public expenditure chain, the implementation of a portal for public procurement, technical support for the structuring projects of the General Directorate of Taxes, the Center of Response to Computer Attacks, and the creation of an electronic newspaper.
Several bills and texts were examined and approved. Listen once again to the spokesman of the government, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf.
La sixième question concerne un projet d'arrêté approuvant et rendant exécutoire les budgets provisionnels consolidés 2023 des différentes entités des hôpitaux de Djibouti.
Sixth question, draft decree approving the making enforceable the 2023 provisional budget of the hospitals of Djibouti. The Minister of Health presented the provisional budgets of the sub-entities. The subject budget of the General Hospital PLTA is presented in income and expenditure at 2 billion Djiboutian francs. The 2023 provisional budget is in line with the hospital's objectives, the strengthening of the technical platform, and the consolidation of a mission of offering quality care. Indeed, the hospital has a capacity of 320 beds and offers more than 20 specialists, including 8 surgical specialists. In 2021, the hospital consulted 6,000 people and 69,000 people for the first 10 months of 2022. In 2023, PLT Hospital plans an investment program of 351 million Djiboutian francs for the rehabilitation of services, the acquisition of 7 machines and dialysis kits and omesis membranes, the acquisition of a monitoring room, the acquisition of an incinerator, as well as the construction of an intensive care unit for pediatrics. The provisional sub-budget for the Balbala Sheikh Hospital is balanced in terms of income and expenditure at 755 billion Djiboutian francs. The budget is about 6.8% lower than the previous one for 2022. Balbala Sheikh Hospital will invest 154 million in the extension of the maternity and pediatrics department, the acquisition of medical and dialysis equipment, and the establishment of a dehawking unit. In 2023, the establishment plans to continue its missions, namely to improve the quality of care provided in the management of various types of pathologies. The Balbala Hospital plans to spend 24.5 million Djiboutian francs on infections and emerging diseases. The provisional sub-budget for the Husseina National Reference Center for Reproductive Health is balanced in terms and income and expenditure at 135 billion Djiboutian francs. The 2023 budget includes capital expenditures for the purchase of medical equipment, the extension and rehabilitation of offices, and the installation of internet access for the machines. The center has a staff of 84 composed of doctors, paramedics, midwives, laboratory technicians. In 2022, the center also conducted a free screening campaign called Pink October, which allowed the detection of several positive cases of cancer thanks to the mammograms performed. The provisional sub-budget of the Dr. Shakib Saad Hospital is presented in revenues and expenses at 330 billion Djiboutian francs with a capacity of 106 beds. The hospital has realized 96,000 constitutions and 520 hospitalizations. The investments concern the installation of a wall oxygen circuit, the acquisition of medical equipment, the rehabilitation and fitting out of the premises. Finally, the provisional sub-budget of the Dar al-Hanan Hospital is presented in balance in income and expenditure at 1 billion Djiboutian francs. The amount of projected investment is 371 million and concerns the acquisition of medical equipment, the installation of wall oxygen circuit for neonatology, the enlargement of the emergency room, and the acquisition of computer equipment. For the first 9 months of 2022, with its 148 functional beds, the hospital carried out 21,000 general surgical consultations, and the total number of admissions amounted to 76,000. The number of cesareans performed to 19,000 and the number of normal deliveries to 26,000. Seventh question, draft degree approving and making enforceable the 2023 provisional budget of CAM. The Ministry of Health presented CAM's 2023 provisional budget, which is set at 1.9 billion Djiboutian francs. In 2023, CAM plans to pursue several objectives, namely to ensure the availability and quality of essential medicines and materials of our citizens, to improve administrative procedures for the distribution of essential medicines and materials to the various health facilities, and to rationalize expenditure. In 2023, CAM is planning capital expenditures amounting to 72 million Djiboutian francs for the reconstruction of the remaining part of the disaster zone. Eighth question, Ministry of Higher Education and Research, draft order approving and making enforceable the provisional budget of the University of Djibouti for the year 2023. The estimated budget of the University of Djibouti for the year 2023 is presented in balance in income and expenses at 4 million Djiboutian francs. It increases by 4% compared to the 2022 budget. The increase is due to the planned requirement of 5 teachers for the new training courses and aims to compensate for the use of temporary staff. The investment budget, which amounts to 31 million Djiboutian francs, is intended to cover the expenses related to the orders of new books, the development of language sector, the acquisition of materials for laboratories, the construction of sanitary facilities on campus, and the installation of a generator. The University of Djibouti also plans to install a MOOC, Massive Open Online Courses Studio. The budget of the university depends on the number of students of the university, which amounts to 11,000 students for the beginning of the academic year 2022-2023. For about 50 courses offered in terms of pedagogy, the creation of 2 master's degrees in computer security and financial engineering is planned following the establishment of 4 research centers that require additional funding. In 2022, 3 university training programs have received ABET accreditation, an independent organization that accreditates programs and gives them international recognition. Ministry of Energy in charge of natural resources. Ninth question, draft order approving the provisional budget of the electricity of Djibouti. For the year 2023, the provisional budget of EDD for the year 2023 is presented in products to 34.5 billion Djiboutian francs with a profit result. The amount of investment planned for 2023 is 10.3 billion Djiboutian francs. The expected energy production in 2023 is 822,717 megawatts compared to 73,000 megawatts in 2022. This increase is due to the injection of the first kilowatt of energy from the Goubet wind power plant amounting to 119 megawatts. Energy production will be generated from the following 3 sources: the Goubet wind power plant amounting to 119,000 megawatts, imported hydroelectric power amounting to 491,000 megawatts, and the thermal power plant amounting to 140,000 megawatts. EDD will continue to finalize the ongoing projects: the transmission line from Goubet, the feasibility study for 3 geometrical links, and the supply of materials for social housing in Bilbala. In 2023, ADD will carry out the following new projects: the 100 megawatts Damarjok power plant, the construction of 230/96 kilowatts substation in Damarjok and Nagat, a 15-kilometer, 233 kV overhead line between Nagat and Damarjok, 263 kVs underground lines of 12 kilometers each, the realization of the second interconnection line, Samara Nagat, the purchase of 2 6-megawatt generators, and the project to improve the IT system. Ministry of Labor in charge of Formalization and Social Protection, 10th issue, draft order approving the provisional budget of the National Institute of Public Administration. The INAP budget estimate for the 2023 fiscal year is presented in balance in revenues and expenditure at 181 million Djiboutian francs. This budget is set up more than 14% of compared to the 2022 budget. Own revenues are made of income from room in rentals. Capital expenditures amount to 42.2 million Djiboutian francs and concern the acquisition of furniture, the purchase of computer equipment, and the construction of video conference room. Ministry of Trade and Tourism, 11th question, draft law on the adoption of the financial accounts of the National Agency for Tourism for the year 2021. The financial accounts of the ANT for the year 2021 are stopped in income at 220 million Djiboutian francs and expenses at 177 million francs with a profit of 42 million Djiboutian francs. In 2021, ANT obtained a subsidy from the state in the amount of 30.7 million Djiboutian francs. ANT's own resources, consisting mainly of hotel and cabin fees, amount to 160 million Djiboutian francs and are up from the 2020 fiscal year. 12th question, draft degree approving and making enforceable the 2023 provisional budget of the National Tourism Agency. The provisional budget of the National Tourism Agency for the fiscal year 2023 is presented in income at 236,604,240 3 Djiboutian francs, and in expenses at 215,643 billion, with a provisional result of 20,961,000 Djiboutian francs. The subject owned revenues amount to 192.2 million and increased by 20% compared to the 2022 achievements. Communications. The Ministry of Economy and Finance in charge of industry reported to his participation in the 115th Council of Ministers of the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States in the European Union, which took place from 27 to 30 November. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation spokesman of the government reported to the 48th ordinary session of the IGAD Council of Ministers, which was held on 30 November in Khartoum. The Minister of Trade and Tourism reported on his participation in the 70th Extraordinary Summit of Industrialization and Economic Diversification, with a team renewed commitment to inclusive industrialization and economic diversification, with the aim of boosting industrial production and accelerating the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which was held on November 25, 2022 in Niamey, Niger. He also reported to his participation in the 22nd Summit of the World Travel and Tourism Council and the signing of an agreement between the Republic of Djibouti and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in the development of tourism, held from 28 to 30 November 2022 in Riyadh.
The President of the Federal Republic of Somalia, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, has arrived since this afternoon at the international airport of Djibouti. On his arrival, the Somali President was greeted by the Prime Minister, His Excellency Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, on the tarmac of the international airport of Djibouti. The Somali President had come to Djibouti to take part in the closing of the 6th edition of the Forum of Ideas, and at the institute of which opened the day before yesterday at the People's Palace. President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud was accompanied by a large delegation composed, among others, of the member of the government. This visit is part of the relations of friendship and cooperation between the two countries and the two peoples with the privileged ties. The President of the Republic, Ismail Omar Guelleh, and his counterpart of Somalia, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, in the closing of the works of the 6th General Meeting of the Institute Heritage, a famous integrationist body of Somali intellectuals in the regions and the diaspora. In a ceremony that took place at the People's Palace. On their arrival at the People's Palace, where was held this 6th General Meeting of the two heads of state, were warmly welcomed by senior officials of the Institute Heritage, by the senior officials of once in the Great Hall, where was held the closing work of the 6th edition of the General Meeting of the Institute Heritage, and under the acclamations of the participants. The two heads of state took a bath of crowd before succeeding each other to follow with each other to the podiums for their official closing speech. The discussions have the effects of climate change and conflict in this part of the world. The climate are popular questions that has gathered a pleiad of renewed Somali intellectuals from around the world. It should be remembered that the climate of tomorrow is certainly uncertain today, but the major trends are known. Today, the Horn of Africa, the most important effects of climate change of all the regions of the world, reshaping regions of the world, reshaping the security landscape. Today, the drought and climatic phenomena are affecting millions of people and threatening their livelihoods. This forum of ideas is a real laboratory of ideas, platforms of exchange, a crossroad around which meets once a year their role to bring their stone to the buildings in terms of peace, security, also governance in the Horn of Africa region. And yes, during 3 days, it will be a question of knowledge and exchange, experience climate change, where the Somali intellectuals, elite and researchers will cross their visions to environmental issues and new health challenges. In addition, this 6th edition which focuses on climate change comes at a time when the Republic of Djibouti has taken the lead on the issues which the head of state, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, has inaugurated the regional observatory. The President of the Republic, Ismail Omar Guelleh, for his part, indicated that he was pleased to begin his speech by paying tribute to the Somali president for his recognition of the Djiboutian people who have just hosted the sixth editions of the Heritage Institute. As leader and people of Djibouti, we pay tribute to the Heritage Institute for focusing this forum on climate change and its consequences and response. And at the same time, it is the 10th anniversary of the Heritage Institute that is being celebrated. In line with my thinking, it must be said that this is a testimony to the fact that people are capable of achieving a lot of, they pull their thoughts and skills and knowledge to achieve common goals. It appears that over the past 10 years, these visions of the Institute's heritage has established a solid base. The theme of this year's conference is climate change, which implies that there are two distinct parties. On the one hand, there are the polluter and the victims. I would add that the industrialized countries do not care about war and the harmful effects of chemicals that pollute the atmosphere. Their priority is the economic interests and profits. According to some Western leaders, the planet Earth is in danger, but they do not have the courage to recognize their responsibilities in terms of global warming and the consequences of climate change, said President Guelleh. The technologically advanced countries do not realize that are harming and damaging the developing and emerging country of the African continent. After the COP27 meeting, it appeared that the countries in difficulty and the least developed countries cannot face the consequences of climate change alone. Nowadays, the ball is in the court of the industrialized country to deal with this phenomena. In the Somali traditions, the rainy seasons had names such as rains that fall in shower and rain is called crashings. Today, these names are numerous and there are more than 150 names. Hence, the importance of water every day in the life of citizens. The President also pointed out that the export of food from urban areas to rural areas has strongly discouraged farmers. Some donors countries that come to the aid of countries affected by climate change and drought contributed to push farmers to stop working and cultivating the land. They are still waiting for the food aid that comes to them. They are still waiting for the food aid from abroad. The developing countries are trapped in a situation of poverty. The developed country are trapped by these aids. We push us towards assistance and implicit begins. This is how, despite the lack of rainfalls and precipitations, the ambient famines and difficulties of all kinds. At the end of this closing ceremony of the 6th General Meeting of the Institute Heritage, the senior heritage leaders awarded prizes to the two heads of state, namely the Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud and the Djiboutian President Ismail Omar Guelleh, who honored with their presence at the closing ceremony of the 6th General Meeting of the Institute Heritage. This prize awarded to the two heads of state is a testimony of their constant commitment to the Institute since its creation, which is a true laboratory of ideas and expertise in order to provide decision makers and community in this part of the world with the communities and the sustainable solutions to the challenges and problems that they face in all areas, political, economic, and cultural areas. The regional seminar for African Parliament on achieving the sustainable development goals opened yesterday at the Campus Key Hotel, Djibouti. This meeting was chaired by the President of the National Assembly, Mohamed Ali Hamad, and was attended by the participation of the President of Inter-Parliamentary Union, the representative of the UNDP, the ambassador, members of the diplomatic corps, and head of the UN agency, head of the United Nations agency. This seminar is not only interested in the climate issue. However, this seminar will also provide an overview of the studies of the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals in the African continent, as well as the initiatives that have been put in place by Parliament around the world to contribute to their effective implementation. Parliament have indeed a central role to play in all areas concerning by the Sustainable Development objectives. As legislators, they have a responsibility to adopt laws that are in line with the realizations of the Sustainable Development Goals and that move towards greater social justice, strong health care system, quality education for all, greater respect for the environment and the quality of the education is for all, greater respect for the environment, more equality between men and women, more inclusive society, both economically and socially. Now for the series of speeches today, his speech reminded the importance of the contributions of parliamentarians to climate issues. For her part, Ms. Emma Nguon Ano, the UNDP resident representative in Djibouti, in her speech declared the contribution and support of the UNDP to the contributions in the fight of climate change. The President of the National Assembly, His Excellency Mohamed Ali Humed, indicated in his speech, first of all, his immense joy to welcome in our Republic on the occasions of the regional seminar for African Parliament on the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. This is only the second seminars of these types organized on the African continent. We have the honor to welcome great specialists and experts recognized internationally for the quality of their work on the Sustainable Development Goals. This is a subject of capital importance for our country, for the whole of the African continent and the future of continent and the future of humanity. The President of the National Assembly, His Excellency Mohamed Ali Humed, received this Monday, December 5, the first official visit of the President of the International Parliamentary Union in person of His Excellency Duarte Paqueto, Deputy to the Assembly of the Republic of Portugal since in 1991 and currently President of the Interparliamentary Union, taking place on the sidelines of the Second African Summit on the Sustainable Development Goals that the National Assembly of the Republic of Djibouti and IPU are organizing together. This is the unique meeting was an opportunity for both parties to strengthen their ties of consultations and exchange, especially for the joint actions and decisions within the continental and international forums. In addition to the President of the Djibouti Parliament and his counterpart did not fail to dwell at length on the bilateral cooperation between Djibouti and Geneva, and whose best symbols is entitled the PRAN 2 project to strengthen the National Assembly, an initiative established in 2019 and renewed over the past year. The Intergovernmental Authority on Development as the lead coordinators of the EU IGAD COVID-19 response project with a 16 million euro support from the European Union to mitigate the health and socio-economic impact of COVID-19 is organizing an official meeting launched by the COVID-19 vaccination initiative among truck drivers along the Ethiopia-Djibouti trade corridors on November 27 in the vicinity of the Djibouti city at PICA 12. Vaccinations and truck drivers against the COVID-19 pandemic is part of the EU IGAD COVID response program, funded by the European Union, coordinated by IGAD, managed by the United Nations Office for Project Services UNOPS, and implemented by the member states Djibouti and Ethiopia and trademark East Africa. The IGAD regions remains vulnerable to COVID-19 due to low vaccination coverage of about 25%, well below the recommended 70% for herd immunity. Truck drivers are a vulnerable group who, without a specific targeted strategy, may be left behind.
Response program. we are gathered to take stock of achievements and challenges. The commitment of ministries of health has been key to ensure an efficient and effective implementation of the program in line with country-specific needs. It is thus with particular pleasure that we remark the strong presence of Member States representatives of the IGAD region. Now, as the program is reaching its final phase, the government's commitment becomes even more important to ensure that results, donations, and transfer of experience will serve the principle of building back better the country after the impact of the COVID pandemic.
And now listen to the Executive Secretary of IGAD, Workene Gebeyehu.
This is a very important gathering that we're working with our distinguished partners. IGAD and member states, with the support from our partners, are undertaking various health and social development programs, including a lot of things: regional COVID response, RH, MNCAH, including addressing the vaccine preventive disease, refugee health, the cancer initiative, digitalization and regional surveillance platform, cross-border health, IGAD, medicine regulation and harmonization. These are one of among different things. Let me mention here the EU IGAD COVID response project under the name EU IGAD response to health and socio-economic impact of COVID is in the IGAD region. With generous support from European Union, the project is intended to benefit a vulnerable population that includes mainly migrants, refugees, and host communities, ICPS, asylum seekers, cross-border population, and pastoralist communities.
The Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmed Rabil Abdullah, has indicated that the IGAD region remains vulnerable to COVID-19 due to the low vaccination coverage of approximately 25%, well below the recommended 70%. For health immunity, truck drivers are a vulnerable group that, without a specific targeted strategy, may be left behind, posing a great risk of cross-border spread of the virus. The initial vaccination site was Pika 12 in Djibouti, targeting 10,000 truck drivers, thanks to IGAD's coordinated role and the support of the member state and partners, and the initiative has expanded to the port of Tajor and will soon include the Togo-Wachale and Berbera corridors between Ethiopia and Somaliland. Djibouti dominates the women's 3,000 meters, while the Games of the Indian Ocean Youth and Sports Commission began this Monday, December 5, 2022 in Mauritius. It did not take long for young Djiboutian athletes to prove their talents. Fatouma Jibril won the gold medal on 3,000 meters, and his compatriot Kafia Suge-Aden silver, synonymous with the second place. A clear domination of the para, which confirms their good preparations after having won silver and bronze medals yesterday in the 800 meters. For the international scene, trial of the Brussels terrorist attack opens. The trials of the Brussels terrorist attack opened on Monday in the Belgian capital. It is an unusual procedure that begins. 10 defendants appear for the attacks committed on March 2016 at the Brussels airport in a metro station that led to the deaths of 32 people. Nearly 1,000 civil parties are expected to attend the proceedings. Injured people, relatives of the victims who will come to testify or listen to the proceedings. For some, it is a new order that is beginning. I hesitated until the last moment, explains Lubna Selassie, victims of the attacks. She does not hide her anxiety at the opening of the debates. I said that to myself, anyway, we will be brought back to be present at one time or another. Since there are also testimonies that are plain, that she adds, other civil parties seems to want above all to turn this painful page. Ismaila Faisal Sarwar lost her sisters in the subway and does not expect much from this trial and the confrontations with the defendant. This is it for the news. Thanks for watching us. Have a good evening.